Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, a Baxter Professional Services production. Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, where we're experts in nursing and experts in business. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. Today's episode is how one nurse bravely asked, "What kind of RN do I want to be?" Today's guest, Darnell Shanklin, Wakanda RN. Nurses, are you burnt out, frustrated, looking for something new? Are you looking for more? Nurses, are you ready to feel the sun? You will dream big and expand your consciousness as an entrepreneur. Your nursing license is your key to freedom. Join the Nurse Shark Academy at thenursesharkacademy.biz today. And welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. We interview nurse leaders and encourage them to tell their story. My mission is for you to own your seat at the table of nurse entrepreneurship, gaining the confidence, skills, and freedom to live your life on your own terms. You will dream big and expand your consciousness as an entrepreneur. Join us and support these wonderful nurse entrepreneurs and leaders. Today's guest is Darnell Shanklin of Wakanda RN, and we're going to have to get into that name because I love that. But I want to ask the first question for you, Darnell. What made you become a nurse?
All right. First off, happy to be here. Hello, everyone. Well, what made me become a nurse? So this is a funny story for me. So it was not my first choice. Let me go ahead and get that out the way. It was not my first choice. My first choice was actually physical therapy. That was my first choice. So actually, I started taking my basics my first semester for nursing school. I was going to try to become a registered nurse. And then I was like, you know what? I think physical therapy is probably the better route. And then so I decided to do that. And then the second semester, I lived with my grandparents. So I lived with a retired registered nurse, and then I lived with a retired LPN. So they had a good hand in convincing me otherwise to change my major. And I was like, okay, I can give it a shot and just kind of see how this turns out. And so I changed my major completely. I didn't look back. It was actually my grandmother, the retired LPN, who convinced me to just go work at a nursing home to get trained to be a CNA first, just to see if I would even like the field. And so I took her advice. I did that. And then I still decided to pursue nursing anyway. And so I've been in healthcare for a while now. I've been a nurse for combined, I believe, 12 years now. And so I've been in it ever since, but it was not my first choice, but I'm glad I stuck with it.
You know what? It's not always your first choice. My first choice was medicine. I was going to go to medical school, took the MCATs twice, right?
Okay.
Seriously, going to medical school. And just couldn't face putting in that application. I started having nightmares of men in white coats chaining me to a desk to learn stuff I didn't want to learn. And they took the joy out of it for me. And so, like you, got a job as a CNA in a nursing home because I need to know something. And I saw what the nurses did, and I thought, I can do that. And if I want to go to medical school later, I can. And that first day in nursing school, I was like, yeah, this is my tribe. This is where I need to be. So I'm glad you're the same cloth and in the same tribe. Physical therapy is great. Don't get me wrong. I love you physical therapists, right? Nothing against you. I work with you as a nurse practitioner and as a nurse. But sometimes what we thought we were going to do is not always what we end up doing. So what was your nursing journey like in nursing school? Where did you go to school? And tell me about that.
Well, so I tell people, I joke with people. I said, listen, I was dumb enough. I did it twice. So I went to LPN school first. I went through Kamishi Technology Center, which I know is going to throw a lot of people off. So it's in Oklahoma, Idabel, Oklahoma to be exact. And so I did that for 11 months. And I became an LPN or PN for depending on who's listening. did that did that for about 5 years. And nursing school experience, at least from the LPN's perspective, it was hard and heavy. It was hard and heavy. I went 5 days a week.
Hmm.
It was not a flex program. It was your traditional. You're going to show up. You're going to be here, and it was rigorous. And I tell you what, going from that jump to being a CNA and then to get to LPN school, very challenging, very challenging. But it made me better. It made me better in the long run, and I had established relationships that were very, very rewarding. So I was glad to be able to be a part of that. And then going to RN school had its own unique challenges, but I felt as though LPN was more challenging. I feel like LPN school was more challenging because once you have that foundation of what nursing actually is, you get some experience underneath your belt. You know what I'm saying? And I feel
Hmm.
like it wasn't as difficult. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, because that whole mantra of what can go wrong will go wrong in nursing school. So I feel like that
Yes.
happens. So, you had life challenges that went along the way, but in terms of actually difficulty, at least from my personal perspective, LPN school is actually more difficult than RN school. But I still occasionally talk to people from my RN school, even till this day. So just developing some of those bonds, just going through because hard times they'll bring you closer together. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, both experiences are very rewarding, but LPN school is definitely harder for me.
Well, it's that jump from, you know, CNA level, getting your foot in the door, your toe wet type thing, to
Hmm.
now you're responsible for a lot of things. And a lot of people don't appreciate the role of the LPN program because you have to learn a lot of stuff in a short period of time, and you're
Hmm.
focused on the doing and the technical.
Hmm.
Right. So you don't get to know a little bit of the why you're doing the stuff until you get to RN school.
Yes.
And then that, and let me tell you, that's just the beginning too, because when you get to graduate school, it's like a whole other level of why you're doing what you're doing. Because now they're expecting you to come up with the actual protocol and the research to say why you do what you do when you hit grad school. So it's a
Mm.
whole other level of pressure. But
Mm.
I think that's a good way for a lot of our nurses to understand. No matter where you started, the idea is just to get started, right?
Hmm.
And I appreciate the LPNs. In fact, my very first nursing job as a brand new RN, I was the RN and immediately charge nurse, but that's a whole other story right there. And the best LPN that worked with me was this older lady, and she just had a way with the patients,
Okay.
right? Her name was Nellie. Nellie was about 80 years old, and she would walk up to the most intoxicated, psychotic patient with schizophrenia, and will look them dead in their face with no fear
Mm.
and tell them to go sit down and go into the seclusion room and relax. And she said, I'll come in, I'll bring your medications. And these rough and tough men who the security guards and the police had to bring in 6 and 10 deep would look at her and go, yes, ma'am, and turn right around and go in there because she had that grandmotherly appearance, and she
Mm.
just knew everything. And she knew
Yeah.
how to talk to the patients in such a way that they would listen to her. And so I said, when a brand new nurse, I said, one day I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be Nellie, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
I want to be Nellie one day because she was awesome. And she just had a way to build that rapport with her patients. And I'll never forget seeing her.
Yeah, yeah. To piggyback on that, it's interesting because I had a stint where I worked in the Veterans Center, especially early in my career as LPN. And listen, when there's like a Nelly, I feel like in a lot of places, and
Mhm.
so I had like a Jeanette, so to speak, and same mentality. Just could tell some of these older vets what to do, and they would listen. And so, yeah, having those older nurses, that grandmotherly appearance, it definitely goes a long way.
I think we've kind of missed and lost some of that. There's a way and an art of talking to a patient when they're at
Hmm.
their worst
Hmm.
and having them to open up to you.
Hmm.
And what I and having been in healthcare for so long, what I see with a lot of our new grads is more of a I don't want to more of a call center sort of customer service
Mm-hmm.
level. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
I do.
Where it's like, oh well, you're being rude to me, so I'm just gonna hang up on you. And that's what happens is that internally hanging up on the patient, and the patient can sense that. And then we
Yes.
kind of, again, I'm not throwing shade at any nurses and saying the proverbial what could you have done better, but I also know how we talk to people, and a lot of our young people have lost that art of being able to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
see that, and that's where things get escalated. And I'm like, you have to learn how to not take some things personally. you know,
Yes.
they want to make it personal, but you can't let it get personal.
No,
And
no.
we
And
miss that.
yeah, we do. And I think a lot of it is if you kind of think about it, if you think about what it means to be social, I think social skills, how do you develop social skills? You gotta fine tune those skills. You have to use it, right? And so if you think about it in this technological age to where you don't have to say a single word, but you can just type or you can text or whatever, you're going to develop these barriers when it comes to one-on-one communication and the different types of communication. A lot of people don't even know different types of communication, but a lot of this is getting lost. A lot of people don't know how to interpret body language.
Yes.
They don't understand verbal and even nonverbal behavior. They don't understand it. But the thing is, in order for these skills to develop, they need more of that one-on-one time. They need to practice. They need to use these skills. So people need to learn to be social again. And also too, you will have better patient care. You have better patient outcomes if you can communicate better. So I'm right there with you. There's definitely that aspect that is definitely missing right now in nursing. And we need it to come back. we need it to come back.
Well, and I feel for the students that came out during the pandemic.
Oh
I've
yes.
talked to some of them. In fact, I'm tutoring some of them. And part of the problem is that they didn't have that patient engagement because they weren't allowed in the hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
So you had two groups. You had the group that graduated just as the pandemic was happening. So they were just thrown out and said, all right, you're a nurse now. Forget taking the
Mm-hmm.
NCLEX. We just need bodies. We're going to give you a provisional license. At least that's what happened in my state. And
Mm-hmm.
then later on, take your NCLEX. That's kind of what they did. Or the people that didn't get the chance to get that good experience. And so all it was simulations and in the lab because you couldn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're expecting you to know all this stuff and how to talk to patients, and when you haven't really had the opportunity to do much. And so I felt really bad for how some of these students during the pandemic, their education to me was almost cheated.
Mm-hmm.
And I worry about how we're training our nurses now because we're training them to pass the NCLEX. We're not training them to be critical thinkers. We're training them to pass the standardized test.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's concerning to me as well. I just started recently tutoring, and this is why it's so fresh in my mind. And one of the things I noticed is that a lot of them don't even know what medications they're giving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how do you give a medication you don't know what it is?
Right. Right. I
You
think I think we come from that old school of you're going to be drilled. You're
Yes,
not going to give a med unless you know everything, the
eh,
pharmacological action, the side
yep.
effects, the adverse effects. I mean, you're going to contraindication. You're going to know everything before you give that medication. And I guess it's just not like that now.
It is not. And then you wonder why. And I am not blaming Redonda at all. Talked with her, you know. Um, but when you don't teach that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're new in the field, right? That's how mistakes happen.
Mm-hmm.
For want of just taking a moment and looking it up. I'm like, we got all these apps. You can download a free app on your phone and look up medications, right?
Yes.
So why
Yes.
would you use that? If you don't know what that is, look it up. I mean, every day I'm seeing patients, I still look stuff up. I'm looking up with the patient. I say, well, let's look it up. Let's find out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember every medication and all the
No.
dosages and how it comes, but I look it up right in front of them and I said, we're gonna look this up together.
Mm-hmm.
and that brings them into the treatment. And so like I said, I appreciate the LPNs. They do so much. They don't get enough credit for what they do. But I understand, and this is what I tell my RN students. I'm like, hey, you're going to be the RN. So that, guess what? That means it's your license. You're in charge.
Yes.
You need to hear that reality.
Yes. Yes.
When you get on that
Yes.
unit, it's you. It is down to you. So what did you do what was your first assignment when you came out of nursing school as an RN? Where did you go work?
Whew. So I had a big transition because in the area that I'm located, um, you were very limited on the options that you had as an LPN. So that was another reason that prompted me to go to RN school. So, primarily my most of my career was spent in long-term care sector. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I became a registered nurse that I was able to go to our local hospital because they did not want LPNs. They wanted registered nurses.
Yes.
And then it was just around the time period where a lot of places were going to BSN and TN because some states already have it, but this particular hospital was wanting this. They were wanting more BSNs. Eventually, they caved in, but that's another story for another day. So, as a registered nurse, I decided to make a transition and to try to work Medsurg. So that was my first area of working in the hospital because I wanted something different. I wanted to try something new. I wanted something different, and I feel like the knowledge I had with long term care patients could transition to the Medsurg floor. So that was my first assignment as a registered nurse, was working in Medsurg.
Okay. Well, you know what? When I graduated many moons ago, that was the whole thing. They always say, "Oh, you want to work in med surge?" Well, I worked as a tech on med surge, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that." So as soon as I got the opportunity, I tailed it to psychiatry because that was my interest,
Yeah.
and I don't
Yes.
regret doing that.
Mm-mm.
Because that has helped me to be able to talk to my patients so much better. That training that I had in psychiatry, so you can plop me down anywhere and I can figure out the technical stuff. But how to
Mm-hmm.
talk to the patients and get them to trust me and talk to me, those are skills that I learned very well in psychiatry and what I can see. And I've seen a lot of stuff working in psych because guess what? Just because you have a psychiatric issue doesn't mean you don't have diabetes
Exactly.
or high blood pressure,
Exactly.
or as one of my patients, respiratory failure. I'm like, why are you on my unit?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because he kept decannulating himself. So they put him on the psychiatric unit. I said, y'all do know we only have like an oxygen tank that lasts 2 hours, right? That's all we have up here.
Right.
You're not allowed to die up here, okay? You got to
No.
go somewhere else in this hospital. Not in psychiatry. No,
Yeah.
you don't die till you get to the ER. Okay, I don't care
Like,
what it said. You didn't
just
die
not
till
here.
you got to the
Just
ER.
not here. I can't blame you. I can't blame you.
People don't understand. If you die in the hospital in the ER, you die on the ICU, you are sick, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
expected. You die
Mm-hmm.
in a psychiatric unit, no matter what killed you, it is an investigation from the state, from the feds, that could last over a year. No matter what happened, it could be natural causes. You had a massive heart attack, a stroke, don't matter. Your butt was in a psychiatric bed. That's what matters. It
Mm-hmm.
automatically triggers that. You can't get around it. So I would just tell them you are full code according to us until we get you out next door.
The DNR doesn't exist.
It does
We
not
couldn't find
exist on this unit.
it. We're gonna full code you till you go somewhere else.
That's
So.
right.
That's funny. That's funny. I
so
like it.
so then as you grew in your career,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of changes did you make? Because how did you get to Wakanda RN? Tell me, how did that come about?
Oh my goodness. How did Wakanda RN come about? Well, it's really interesting because, for years people used to tell me, You have like this radio voice. Have you ever done anything with broadcasting or anything like that? And I've always told people no. Like I know I've been gifted with this unique voice, and I haven't really done anything with it. And so what's funny about the name Wakanda RN, so when Black Panther was popular,
Yes.
and I'm sure people can give me a better understanding. I don't know if it was 2018, 2017. I can't remember. But around that time period, right, that I was talking with, I have a brother that's in the Air Force. And really what came about is he helped me come about with this name. And so, shout out to him. But at the time, it was just a name. That's all it was at the time. But then as time has gone on, especially me being in my registered nurse role, I always kept seeing, like, always having like these envisions of, okay, what can I do with this role? What can I bring to people? And so I know at the beginning of early last year, early 2024, that I decided that, you know what, I've seen the podcast space. I like podcasting. I don't see why I can't do it. I don't see why I can't, especially because that's the roadblock gets in the way. You think like you're not smart enough, or you don't know enough, you don't have the right equipment, you don't have this, you don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
I decided just to do it. I'm not gonna lie to you. So some of you may laugh, but my beginning was I called a friend. I called a friend who graduated nurse practitioner school, who specialized in neurology. I was like, hey man, can you meet me at a library? We can just host a podcast episode together. And I'm so thankful he said yes. And I called a couple other friends who used to work for the Veterans Center, and they specialize in Alzheimer's care. So they work on an Alzheimer's unit. I was like, hey, can you meet me at the library? And can we just record an episode real quick? Didn't have the best camera, didn't have the best equipment. But after I did it, I feel like I could do it again. Once I did one, I feel like I could do another. And then, like, slowly but surely, that confidence started to come. And then so a year later, I'm actually doing a lot better than what I anticipated. And so the more I do it, the bigger the vision becomes. So anyway, that's how Wakanda RN came about. And that's kind of how I got started.
Well, I think that's so interesting because so I remember when Black Panther came out. Okay. And the scene that got me was when Chadwick Boseman walked through in his black, robe and everything, it is kingly stride.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, look at us.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be awesome if Wakanda really existed? And I'm like, if it did, how can I figure out how to get in? Like, I will find this tattoo maker and have him give me a tattoo. And I am scared of, needles and stuff like that. But I'm like, I will get tattooed for this. Right. And I just thought, what would it be like if we had this conversation? There's a lot of chatter. I'm in a lot of blurred groups, Black nerd groups on Facebook, right? So there's a lot of chatter during this time.
Right.
And I had a conversation with a MP student that I was training at the time, who was from, I think, Nigeria. And we were talking, and I was talking about Black Panther because he kind of didn't get it. He kind of didn't get how big a deal, because it's not a real place, right? He's Wakanda does not really exist. I said, but you don't understand, my brother. No, it exists in our hearts.
That's right.
You have to understand. I think that is kind of that feeling that we have when there's something that's yours.
Yes.
It's yours.
It is yours.
Yeah.
It is yours. And add a fun fact too. So the name Wakanda RN was actually an entendre. So when I thought about it, it's, if you break it down, I thought about of what kind of RN do I want to be. So if you Wakanda RN, right? Mm-hmm. And then Wakanda RN, if you think about the place Wakanda and what it is, right? Think about if you haven't seen Black Panther, you won't understand. But if you have, you understand what I'm saying. That place is so beautiful, and they were so technologically advanced, right? And I thought about it too, like what would a Wakandan RN look like, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if for me it was an entendre, it's like what kind of RN do I want to be? And I'm also that Wakandan RN. So
Yes.
just to kind of give a little bonus fun fact about that too.
Well, it's kind of similar when I came up with the nurse shark, right? Because there is an actual animal, the nurse shark. There's a nurse shark. But I also was looking at ways to talk about being a nurse and being experts and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And I was watching a lot of Shark Tank at the time. And so I looked up what shark meant. And a shark in the business sense is an expert in their field.
Yes.
And that's how the nurse shark was born. And so that's what gave me the vision for that. And so I appreciate you asking what kind of RN you want it to be, because that makes sense to me. That resonates with me. And when I saw the name, I was like, I got to get him on this show. I need to talk to this brother because I want to know what this is about. I
I
have
love that.
got to I have got to find out, and that's why I wanted to get you here. I was like, and you're a fellow podcaster, so let's talk about that, because there's
Yes.
nurses out here that are probably listening to this show and are
Yes.
thinking about starting a podcast
Yes.
and thinking it is the platform oversaturated. No, no,
No.
no, there's so much room for you.
Yes.
There's so much room for you. And
Yes.
you can decide what you want to look at. I mean, I've heard of nurses doing true crime podcasts, right?
Hmm.
There's some forensic nurses that actually talk
Yes.
about cases, and I listened to their
Yes.
show, and I was like, "This is amazing." Kind of dark, but it's amazing.
Yes.
Says the person who lives in psych. But anyway, it was like that was a little too dark for me. It was like, can't listen to this every day. I gotta take a break. I gotta listen to something happy, because I was listening to the 3-part episode about um child abuse. And so I was like, yeah, I need a break from that
Hmm.
because it was so
Understandable.
heavy. And
Hmm.
I already deal with this kind of trauma in my day to day with on the psychiatric side. And it was just like,
Hmm.
yeah, but there's so much room for nurses to get their voices out. And that's one of the reasons
Yes.
why I started my show, is because I wanted people to hear about the wonderful things that nurses are doing.
Hmm.
That's the whole purpose. I'm like, why do people know this? And what's even sadder is that other nurses don't know it.
Mm-mm.
That's what makes me so sad. I'm like,
Hmm.
you can. And so I'm like, woo, fellow podcaster, nurse. I was like, yeah, definitely. We got to get you on here. So it looks
Yes.
like you also worked in the ER, and I'm pretty sure you had some fun times in the ER. Now, are you still practicing in the ER?
Yeah, I do like some PRN work
Okay.
for ER. And the ER is a wild animal. That's
Hmm.
the best way I can describe the ER. I know it differs depending on your area, location, your trauma levels. I mean, I understand that. But all in all, I feel like most people can definitely agree that it is, because each don't get me wrong, each specialty is special in its own
Right.
way, right?
Yes.
They're all
Yes.
special. However, when you think about excitement, when you think about the adrenaline rush, when you think about the craziest of craziest stories in healthcare, your
Hmm.
mind goes to the emergency department.
Hmm.
Whether you have seen it on a TV show, Grey's Anatomy, whatever, or whether you hear something in the news, whatever. I mean, you can go back as far as stories told in the ER. That maybe maybe
Yes.
telling
Yes.
maybe telling myself a little bit, but that's the thing. Some of those things you see and hear, they actually do occur.
Hmm.
They actually do occur. And but for me, the biggest thing was the experience that I gained while working in the emergency department. That was the biggest thing for me. Just being in there, dealing with those emergency situations. Because think about it, I came from long term care, and we
Right.
know things are not fast paced in that world at
No.
all,
No.
at all. So going from those humble beginnings all the way to the fast paced emergency department was definitely a big transition. And but I was appreciative of it because I learned so much, and I still learn. But the time that I was full time in the emergency department, I learned so much. And so yeah, the emergency department for me, because people ask me like, "What's your favorite specialty?" I'm like, honestly, I said, my heart, if you ask me where my heart lies with my geriatric. That's where my heart lies.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what I can get out of nursing, for me, in terms of day to day, what I'm going to see differently, the experiences I'm going to get, for me, is the emergency department, because you're going to get ER patients, you're going to get ICU holds, you're going to get Medsurg patients that need a bed that's down there. You're going to see peds, you're going to see psych, because people need psych consults down there. Like, you're going to see almost literally anything you can think of within the emergency department. And I can take that wealth, I can take that knowledge and bring it to like a space like this. So emergency department is definitely its own animal.
It definitely is. It's a person who did the psych consults in the ER.
Oh, so
Oh, yes, yes. The funniest story I ever had in the ER for me was when I was a nursing student. It was the first time experiencing anything like this. And the ER doctor was mad about something, but I didn't know he was the ER doctor. Okay. He was in street clothes, so I didn't know. And he came in and he starts throwing stuff and yelling and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, hey, do y'all see this man over here freaking out? I'm a nursing student observing. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, shouldn't we be getting security? And the nurses were like, shh, that's Dr. So-and-so. So the charge nurse went up to him and said, Dr. So-and-so, our nursing student would like us to call security on you. Perhaps you might want to tone it down. And he was on his best behavior the rest of the shift.
Okay.
But I'll never forget it, because I'm like, I'm again, my background at that time had been long-term care and worked a little bit on Medsurg and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, he's over here flipping out. Is this normal? And it was the doctor.
Oh gosh.
So yeah. But have you watched the show The Pit?
I have seen like 6 episodes and I enjoy The Pit. I haven't finished it yet.
I haven't finished it. I binge watched like 3 episodes, and then I dreamt I was at work all night and I was back in the hospital and I was PO'd. And because I was back in the hospital, and I'm like, why am I back here working? And why are these call lights going off? And then I realized it was my alarm clock and I was going to be late for work.
Oh, gosh.
But I had spent the whole night. This is so funny. I had spent the whole night in the ER trying to get these psych consults done because they called me. And it happened to be one of the episodes where they were kept waiting on the guy to come down from psych.
Oh, really? Oh,
the homeless guy. And I'm like, I can't find this patient. Where is he?
Right.
Did y'all let him leave? And I was just like, I've got to find a bed for him. I was a supervisor on psychiatric units. So, and I was trying to do this psych consult all night. And then I woke up and I had a full panel of patients to see. And I'm just like, yeah, this is not good for me. I got to watch this in segments.
Well, with that, I can't blame you. I would do the same thing too.
I hate those dreams where I dream I'm at work all night and then all day, and I wake up and I have to go back to work, and I'm just like, it really makes me mad.
Those are the worst. You feel so exhausted. Like you already worked 12 hours in your dream, right? And then you got another 8 or 12-hour shift.
And I don't get my money. I'm like, I worked 10 hours already. I don't get my money.
You work for free.
Yes.
You work for free in your dream.
In my dream. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. 100%.
Yeah, I used to have all these nightmares about these call lights going off all the time, and
hearing call lights in your sleep is never good.
No, IV pumps were going off, and I'm
IV pumps, yes.
It's a pump, and it's the alarm clock, and I'm like,
yes. Yep. Listen, I know. I'm right there with you.
Well, I used to work night shift, so used to work nights on the psychiatric unit.
Same night shift. Yep.
And how at ERs is very similar. You pray that you aren't the one working or on call on the full moon.
Oh.
because
Ooh,
I'm like, oh no, 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 no.
I know it. I know it. It's a real thing. Some people don't think it exists. It's a
it
real.
it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I don't know, and when the season starts to change, it's like, all
That's
right,
another
I'm
one.
ready for the manic episodes to start. Because either you're going to get really depressed or really manic. You just kind
Hmm.
of know. I had a resident who was bipolar, and she would tell me, "I'm flying, I'm flying." That was her way of saying she was manic.
I was thinking Southwest.
Yeah, I was like, "Okay, we'll adjust your meds temporarily for a little while till we get you back to where you need to be."
Hmm. Hmm.
She couldn't really verbalize anything else, but we knew what that meant.
I'm glad y'all. I'm glad y'all know. I'm glad y'all
Hmm.
know because sometimes that verbiage that they use, it's kind of hard to interpret to understand. But if you spend enough time with them, I mean, y'all have a pretty good understanding what they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we saw the behaviors. It's like, oh, we kind of escalated. We were kind of irritable today. It's like, oh. Next thing you know, she's talking about, yeah, I'm flying. I was like, yeah, we see. You know, we gonna fix that. Yeah,
She
we
believes
know
she can
that.
fly, huh? She.
Yeah, that was her way of saying her moods were so up and down. She was flying. I
Gotcha.
was like, yeah, and it's interesting because when you get into older adults, a lot of them that do have mental illness. And a lot of people don't understand this, but just because you're 90 years old does not mean that you are no longer bipolar.
Yeah.
And we found out that the hard way.
Hmm.
I had a lady who was 90 years old on 0.25 milligrams of risperidone.
Really.
And we're like, she don't need that. That's a baby dose. Oh, yes, she did. We weaned her off that medicine. She was good for like 24 hours.
Really.
Yes, and it was like she started trying to escape the building. She was hitting people, getting out of her wheelchair, was assaulting me as I was trying to get her to sit down because we took away 0.25 milligrams. I said, let's put that back on her med list.
Hmm.
Leave it on there because in older adults they always try to get rid of the psychotropics. And I said, no, she needs this. No gradual dose reductions for her ever again. It is worse for her and a safety risk for her to stop this medicine. Once we got her back on it, she calmed down, wasn't a psychotic, wasn't seeing things that weren't there and talking to people that weren't there. I mean, just that quick. 24 hours,
Wow.
weaned her off of it, got her off of it. 24 hours later, we started escalating and behaviors got worse and worse. And I was afraid she's going to fall and break her hip. And she was determined. She was getting out that building.
Oh my gosh, that does happen a lot. Where psychotropic drugs, they try to taper them off, especially the elderly, the geriatrics. That happens a lot, and it's like,
Hmm.
I know why you have to do that, but they really need that. They really need it.
Yes, yes. If you have a diagnosed mental illness, schizophrenia, now sometimes it can go into remission. I've had people who are older, their schizophrenia is well controlled with their medicines. They do really well. They're not having their hallucinations anymore. But take that medicine away and see what happens.
Mm,
You
mm.
know, it's not pretty. And so I tell people, when we talk about deprescribing for older adults and try to bring down their meds, do it slowly and watch what happens. Nothing's more cruel to me than having someone who's been on Valium 10 milligrams 3 times a day for 30 years,
Mm.
and you bring them in and you yank it away from them. And then you wonder why you have all these behaviors. And I'm like, they're going through withdrawal, man. Why didn't you just gradually reduce it? You could take 6 months and get them off of it.
Hmm.
They've been on for 30 years. You just can't yank them off their benzos like that.
No, no.
It doesn't work that way. You're going to create a worse problem. Then they wonder why they're delirious and everything else because you took
Yes,
away their meds like that.
yes, yes. I'm glad you're speaking on that because that I've definitely seen that throughout my career too.
Yeah,
Terrible.
and so my background is geriatrics too, and so I'm a gerontology nurse practitioner, And so I do a lot of neuropsychiatry, and I'm like, stop yanking these people off their meds. Gradually put them on it, and gradually take them off of it.
Yes.
So that's how you do. So tell us about your show. What is your theme of your show? What do you guys talk about on your show, and how do we get to listen to your show? Wakanda RN.
Man, so my show, I tell people, so my show is about the weird yet wonderful world of healthcare with Wakanda. So that healthcare is broad, right? Why? Because healthcare itself is broad. You know what I'm saying? There's people who can talk about specifics, but however, let me bring you the broad aspect of healthcare. Let me bring in people who specialize. Maybe you want to talk to an NCLEX coach? Okay, I can bring you an NCLEX coach. You want to talk for somebody who's a travel nurse LPN in Canada? Okay, let me bring that person on, right? And talk about how to get that if you want to become a travel nurse in Canada, right? Or just different aspects. So, I've talked to nurse practitioners, I've talked to speech pathologists recently and occupational therapists. So I'm trying to bring the worldwide healthcare onto my show. And let's talk about a variety of topics, right? And so because I want people to feel awesome. I want people to understand what they bring to the table in terms of healthcare, because a lot of people are very good at what they do, but you'll never hear about them. You'll never hear their stories. Or there's certain things that you may wonder about that you won't hear practically anywhere else. Not saying that you can, of course, but just from what I've seen so far. And so I explore that weird but yet wonderful world of healthcare, and it's Wakanda's world. So recently, I'm partnered with Apple, because first I was just really strictly to like YouTube, but
Mhm.
now you can find me on Apple, you can find me on Amazon Music, you can find me on Podcast Listen. I mean, you can find me almost anywhere there's a podcast listing. Spotify, wherever you want to find a podcast, you can find it. It's Wakanda's World. So that's how you can find me. And so, and if you're interested, what I'm saying, holler at me. Holler at me, because I feel like there's so many people that bring different aspects to healthcare. But anyway, I just recently done one with the CNA too, who talks about entrepreneurship. How she went from being a CNA to being a health insurance broker. And so we talked about that. And so, but anyway, just anything. So it could be entrepreneurship. It could be what's going on within today's climate, up and coming changes. So just a wide, wonderful world of healthcare.
And that sounds wonderful. So I'm going to make sure we put the links in the show notes for you to listen to the show. I encourage you to do so. I subscribe to his YouTube channel because I wanted to see what was going on over there. Because, like I said, you had me at Wakanda. Okay, you had me at Wakanda. And I'm just so excited. Now, I'm going to kind of switch a little bit because I know we've been
Yeah.
talking about the podcast and everything. But I have another show that I do, a nursing news show once a
Okay.
week. And one of the things that I highlighted for our nurse making a difference this week was a brand new nurse that graduated from one of the HBCUs, and he's a male, and he's a black male nurse. And so I did not want to lose this opportunity to talk to you specifically about that, what the experience like for being a male, which I know is very sometimes limited in nursing. You
Mm-hmm.
find your counterparts, but also
Mm-hmm.
in particular being a black male in nursing. As I'm the president of the Black nurses here in where I live, I want to talk about that because I think that's important. What was your
Sure.
experience like?
Whew. It's a variety. I'd be lying if I sat here and didn't say that I didn't face any prejudice, if I didn't face any racism, if I didn't face any, if I didn't face any of that. That has definitely happened in my career, especially early.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you look at somebody that's black or somebody of color, you're going to assume that they're less than. I've had people do that. I've had people look at me and my name badge is specifically says LPN or nurse, and they'll say, "Are you a housekeeper? Are
Mm-hmm.
you a CNA?" I'm like, "My badge is right here. I'm a nurse." They'll just look at you, and because of what you are, they just assume that you're less than. And so that's happened multiple times. And then and also as well, being a black nurse, a person of color, especially in America, I feel as though that sometimes you work with geriatrics. I've had this happen more geriatrics more so than the other age groups, but especially at those who may or may not have Alzheimer's, or people will say, well, they came from a different time period. I'm like, I don't want to hear all that, but they've called me racial things and stuff in the past too. I've been called an N word and things like that, and so those are things that have happened, right? And that's just being a black male. But the thing that I do love about being in this space, which I know it's increasing since I've started healthcare, I've seen more people of color, more people that are black coming into the field, and so male, female, etc. But I can also say too, I'm glad that I've had these experiences just in hindsight, so I can help the next generation that's coming up too, to let them know, like, okay, you're dealing with these things, but you can overcome. And this is how you can overcome. Right. And also, people can look at me and they say, okay, well, he's doing it. And so I can do it too. I've had family thank me for being in this space. It's like, hey, it's nice to see a familiar face. It's nice to see. I've had people tell me it's nice to have a black male in this space, because we need black men.
Yes.
You need black men in these roles, in these positions, because it's relatable. It's so relatable to have that person that can be there for you. And so, when I was young in my career, I didn't understand it, but the older I've gotten within my career, the more I've accepted it. I've accepted this role, so to speak, and it's been good, because I'm able to help the next generation. So, I've seen the bad, I've seen the ugly, but I've also had people that have been really appreciative that I'm in this space. So those people give me that positive feedback. Those people ask me for advice, what it means to be a black male within healthcare, a black male within nursing. That helps me a lot too. So that's what I have to say about being a black male in this healthcare space.
Well, I have to tell you, as a person who was on the other side, I was a patient getting a colonoscopy. Always a fun time, right? So I'm nervous for this test, and I've never met this doctor, and the doctor that they assigned to me comes walking in, and it was a black female, and I just immediately felt so much better.
Yes.
I just felt like I'm in good hands. All my other doctors, with the exception of this one doctor that I had temporarily, no long story about that one, but they've been white males.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to have a black female gastroenterologist doing my testing, I was just thrilled. I was like, you don't know what you just did. You'll probably have a patient for life. Because I just immediately felt like I was safe,
Right. Yes.
And it's not that I expected anything to happen with the other gentleman. Don't get me wrong, because my first doctor, he was awesome. I loved him. I hated when he retired. But it was just knowing that I knew she knew what she was doing. She had that level of confidence about her that just made me feel instantly like I was in good hands. And I can see that about you, is that there's a level of confidence that comes in that can put people at ease, particularly when you feel like people don't listen to you. And you feel marginalized. And I'm not just talking about racially, but I've had some patients, because they've had a mental health diagnosis, sometimes they don't get listened to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to find some things. Oh, you say this and this and this. And we found out, well, you know what? Yeah, you do have something physically wrong with you. It's not all in your head. This is a physical cause. Let's send you to the right doctor that handles that physical cause stuff. And so I think having that representation is important. I want us to feel like we can do. That's all part of that Wakanda feeling, that we can do things, we can be things, we can have things, and taking ownership of our own lives. And that's what I loved about the movie, was not that they were all segregated and, it was their whole thing. It was the fact that they took what they had, built upon it, created this entire society.
Yes.
Where if you were part of their group, everyone had a role, a place, and they belonged.
Yes.
without being fettered with the whole, you're less than. Everybody has a role in making
Yes.
our society thrive. And I think
Hmm.
we should do that. That should be the feeling we should carry into nursing, that everybody, whether you're a CNA, an LPN, a physical therapist, everybody on the healthcare team has a role to play.
Yes.
And we bring in our expertise. And it's so important that we're able to foster that and giving the patient the space to express what's happening with them.
Hmm. Oh, let's see. Okay. Lost the sound there. Let's see.
All right, we're
Okay.
back.
There we go.
Sorry about that. I stepped on the cord again. I got a really
You're
bad
good.
habit of doing that. So I asked them, if you had a piece of advice to give a budding entrepreneur or budding podcaster, what would it be?
My advice is don't be afraid to fail. Do not be afraid to fail because don't look at it as failure. Just look at it as a learning opportunity. Because when you start something, you're not an expert at it. You're not an expert at it. Let me tell you, there's a lot of resources that are out there that can help you. There's people that have done it before you can reach out to. Lean into the power of networking. Don't be afraid to reach out to people regarding seminars, webinars, etc. No matter what you're trying to get into. So if you're somebody that's in entrepreneurship and you're trying to just start your own business, there's people that have already done that. There's coaches out there. If you're somebody who's trying to start a podcast, look at people, just go look what they're doing. Look at people that are very successful, and see what you can take from them, because and trust me, you're not alone. Also reach out to certain groups as well. You can find, like if you're into podcasting, there's groups on Facebook that you can reach out to. There's different groups like that. So uh, use your resources, ask questions, reach out, and see what you can try to learn as much as you possibly can, because you can do it. You can do it. Let me let you know right now. It's not that you can't. You can. Just don't be afraid to fail. Just look at it as a learning opportunity.
I so appreciate that. Just jump in and get started, do it, and don't be afraid to fail. I think that's so wonderful. So that's our time for today. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Nurse Shark Academy show. I look forward to our next episode with you. If you are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, please. And leave us a comment. If you're listening to us on Facebook or through Podbean or wherever you get your podcast, leave us a comment and a like. We greatly appreciate it. And if you know of a nurse who's an entrepreneur or a business leader and you think they'd be a great guest on the show, don't feel that you can't refer them. Let me know. Send us a message. You can always reach us at the nursesharkacademy.biz. Keep an eye out for our upcoming newsletter. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming, Darnell. You have been wonderful. I'm so appreciative of this. Have a great rest of your show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Ready to turn your nursing skills into a thriving business? At the Nurse Shark Academy, we give you expert strategies, real startup guidance, and the support to go from employee to empowered entrepreneur. Join us and build the nurse-owned business of your dreams. Start today and join us at the nursesharkacademy.biz. Thank you for listening to the Nurse Shark Academy show wherever you get your podcasts or watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll know when all of our episodes come out. If you want further information, you can contact us on the NurseSharkAcademy.biz.